All right, 1, 2, 3, let's change. All right, so I just want to do a quick recording of what I was talking about earlier. And it's this idea that if you make a $30 out minimum wage in California, that this is ever going to fix the problems. And it's well known it's not. Because it doesn't address the real problem. And the real problem has always been housing cost. But where am I going with this? Freedom Phil, like, subscribe, let's get into it. And hey, turn up the video speed. Why do I say that? Because you watch videos faster. Let's get into it. And hey, I appreciate anybody that subs. Later. Let's get into it. So it's like this. Every time they up the minimum wage, it just basically causes everything to go up. It's pretty well known. It's pretty common sense. But for the average broke person that's not really doing much in their life, it does feel good. For about 3 to 6 months, you do have a slightly higher wage. And for that brief time, hopefully, while that's happening, you actually save your money. But it doesn't address the real problem in the room, because whenever you up the minimum wage, it means everything that's involved in that now has a higher cost. And so you have a situation where basically, dog, what are you doing? A situation where the rent that used to be, say, I don't know, $1,500 is now $1,700 to $1,800. You've only changed the problem. You've just raised. It's like inflation, but slightly different. And so that problem just gets passed on to one group after another, after another, after another. You can't do that. It doesn't work. So what's the solution? And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. I've seen these things over in Japan where the people that are poor, homeless, and whatnot, instead of having a bunch of people out on the streets because it's just not considered acceptable, they like a clean, decent society, they actually have these buildings where they built these little sliver size, storage unit size places where you can have a mattress, you can have like a TV, a fan and whatnot. And effectively, if you were to do this and, you have a kind of a public kitchen and so for showers, probably something like a public gym, where you can go and take care of your issues, this would allow people to effectively, actually get ahead. Where your rent is so cheap that you can, when you're making $20 an hour, you're actually making profit because you're not losing it all to rent, utilities, and the basics. I've got to be honest about this. I think the way people should start treating the cities is the cities are not where you go to raise a family. The cities are a place you go to make money and you go to visit, and maybe you show up occasionally because there's a rock show or some sort of festival you want to go to. You don't live in the cities. You go out and buy a cheap house somewhere in the farmlands, the Midwest, somewhere in America or somewhere wherever you're at, that's affordable. And the way to make the cities work out, and this is how do I know this? I drove truck for years, and driving truck, you have a free apartment on wheels, no rent, no utilities. You don't have to worry about the insurance, taxes, and all that other crap. Basically, and your vehicle never really goes bad. Now, not everybody can drive truck, and they won't be there forever, but it would plumber, electrician, whatever it happened to be, or some sort of actual useful college education, the cheaper you get the rent, and this is one thing I noticed with foreigners, is that foreigners that did this similar technique, basically what happened is that, look, I get it, a lot of people are like, well, you don't want a ton of people all living in the same house. I agree with that, because it is more wear and tear on the plumbing and everything. But that is kind of the way things work. And van life is another example. Instead of having think about what a house even is to some degree. It's a place you sleep, shower, and use the bathroom. You kind of live there. You kind of maybe play some video games. But let me break something to you when it comes to van life. I've got a TV in there, so just airwave TV from local area. You got the Nintendo DS, the Nintendo Switch. And this all runs off solar power, same thing when I was trucking, you got a refrigerator, whether it's a little Bouge RV or one of those ones that's actually built in. Other than the whole shower and the bathroom, and let me tell you how to do the bathroom thing. You go to the grocery store, 24-hour grocery store. Hey man, you're going to go buy some food that day anyways, buy fresh every day. Bada bing, bada boom, use the bathroom while you're there. You're purchasing something, whether it's a gas station or a grocery store, showering. Some places have public showers, like marinas and whatnot. But generally, the way to do it these days is you get a gym membership. So before you go to work, maybe get a little workout and get a shower, get dressed, go to work, do your work, get off, go back to the gym. Go catch a shower, maybe catch a sauna, maybe get another workout, you know? And as far as parking, when it comes to van life or doing a tent life or something like that, you got a buddy in town that has a backyard you can park in, you know, if you're whether you're setting up a tent, or I was mobile for years where, you know, like when I was a van lifer, when I was moving garbage for a living, yeah, I'd stay here tonight and I would stay somewhere else the next day. And I'd always leave before the sun rose. Why? Because, and this is why I liked winters better, because I call it dark season, because the sun would go down earlier. Now, most people really didn't care, but it's best not to be an eyesore on the fucking community. And once people know, as a van lifer or any sort of alternative way of living, that you're working a job, once the cops knew I was one of the local garbage men, they stopped passing them. They're like, oh, you work for them? Like, well, why you live in a van? I've got a property I'm paying off in another state, which would be the property I'm sitting in. So that's actually the technique. Whether it's like some sliver size apartments, you know, like I've met people that have actually lived in storage units, and I'm not recommending it's illegal, but all I'm saying is we need affordable living. You can up that minimum wage as much as you want, but that will never change a goddamn thing. And let me tell you why they'd rather up the minimum wage than make affordable housing. No offense, but the boomers don't want to see their house values go down. That's it. How many of these boomers don't actually have, boomers and older Gen Xers, they don't actually have anything outside of their house of value. So if that value goes down, oh, they're going to riot, they're going to lose their minds. And they certainly don't want to see affordable housing built in their communities. So they're more than happy. And, you know, I got to point something out. The fentanyl crisis we have in America, we need to put a stop to that shit. And now that needs to be someone that's feeding that poison into our country. That needs to be death penalty. Just like that's just it, death penalty. I'm not talking about low rank dealers. I'm talking about the people running the shit. Because I have seen the case where some people were poor and then they get into some of those heavier drugs, whether it's meth, crack, fentanyl, heroin, and those people, they might have been savable. If you had got those people into some sort of affordable living situation, like a sliver size apartment, where they could actually make profit, making $20 an hour, instead of these cities where you can't afford, you're working $20 an hour, you can't afford to live. So the problem is the cost of rent. But those boomers, God fucking forbid, we build something where people can afford to live. And I know. It's one of those things where people are like, yeah, but you know, the voting and the blah, blah, blah. You know, it's like, dude, seriously. Do you want a real solution, or do you want to keep on kicking the can down the road because things are getting worse? I remember when I was younger, the West Coast was a beautiful gem. It is not that way anymore. It didn't have these issues when I was a kid. Now it does. There wasn't an epidemic. Like, look, when you drive, like I've driven all over the country driving truck. When you get to some of these cities, your cities looks like it has herpes. Because there's this tent, that tent, that tent, anywhere they can put a tent. And some of these people even work jobs. Like some work under the table, some actually work legitimately. And then you got the people that are fake and crazy or legitimately nuts after using how many drugs. And they're just living on the streets. And people are like sitting there trying to ignore the problem, acting like it's not there. But it's there. And then when the people talk about, well, we need to pay $30 an hour. Remember the fight for 15? What did that change a fucking thing in Seattle? No, it didn't. All it did was raise the cost. And you know what that also does? That rich boomer, now their house is worth this much more because it costs that much more to deal with the crap. So I'm really sick and tired of the situation where, no offense, I don't totally hate the boomers, but they deserve every bit of hatred because there's some good boomers out there. Don't get me wrong. But I'm sick and tired of our entire country basically catering to what was arguably the most privileged generation to ever fucking exist in the history of man. You know, like literally, like how much do we have to sacrifice of the future for a bunch of people that are only going to be around for another 10, 15, 20 years? But don't think it ends with the boomers. Older Gen Xers are doing the exact same thing. So if you want to stop this problem in the cities, not only the homeless and, you know, affordable living, you need to build sliver size apartments. You take some of these old buildings, shit, even take an old warehouse district. You could build here's like, it's like a monastery for the guys. Here's a monastery for the women over here. I'm not talking religious. I'm just saying women's house here, men's house here. And if someone wants to build a whatever house, like for the gender sign, have like a transferee dragon thing, with a Mecha Godzilla mouth, that would be the fucking sign for the bathroom. And it just says whatever. But you need affordable housing, because just upping the minimum wage, and this is another problem that the elephant in the room that nobody wants to address. When you up the minimum wage, most of the people who have higher skills, who actually have a skilled trade, the wages don't up. Like if you up the wage from 20 to 30, do you think that skilled tradesman's going to see a $10 increase? Oh, hell no. No, maybe they'll see a $2. If they're lucky, they'll see a $5, but they probably won't even see that. They'll see $2. So you've now upped the lower wage by $10, and the people that actually have real skills, that actually have real bills and real problems and real families, they're now seeing a decrease in their quality of life. And all why? Because the boomers don't want to see a decrease in their housing value. God fucking forbid we build a situation. By the way I would do that sliver style housing, you would have to show that you're actually saving towards something. And once you get enough money, once you get like 50 to 100,000, let's say 100,000, you go to the Midwest and pay cash for a house, and you check out if you have to, or maybe save up, invest, let your money make you money. Yes, you could be part of the investor class. And I know this because I lived in the woods for 4 years, $100 a month, my early 20s. I did van life when I was paying off my first place, this place. We went to Garbage Man, and then I drove truck for over damn near 9 to 10 years. What's the point of all that? I've lived weird more than I've lived normal, and I can tell you living weird gave me so much profit. When I can live off anywhere from $2,500 to $5,000 a year, not a month, a year. And for those that are like, there's no way, I'll just tell you. $30 a month for a cell phone, $15 a month for a laundry. Let's see. What was it? $25 a month for auto insurance for the 88 Econoline. What the hell else is there? No, there's no utilities as a van lifer or as a trucker, so I don't have to worry about that. Let's say $100 for food. Learn how to cook. Maybe a little more now if you want to eat healthier. But so we're talking $200 a month. Let's just go up to $300. That's under $5,000 a year. So yeah, not complicated at all. Not hard to do. And then people say, what about gas? I don't move all the time. When I was trucking, I have 2 tanks on my van, and I filled them up. They last 13 months. And if I'd put fuel treatment in there, they probably would have lasted an extra month. So on top of that, then put, so $10 to $20 a month in gas. Like literally, you can live ridiculously cheap. And if you happen to be in one of those cities where, no one's hassling you, you move more in the cities, granted. But you get like a gym membership or something, and you can just like, maybe you got a buddy you can park your van at, in the back alley or something. And then you just use your mountain bike everywhere. So yeah, what I did with van life is what needs to happen, but it needs to be something normal to where we have sliver style housing. So single people, when they're young, they have affordable housing. That way they can get ahead in life. But the people you're going to have to fight off the most that are going to hold you back in this political landscape are the boomers. Because the boomers, the last thing they want to see is their housing values go down. And if it doesn't recorrect, it's just going to be a problem. We keep on kicking the can down the road. In fact, when the housing values go down, it will hurt me and my value of my properties. But fuck it, man. I mean, it's just money. I'm just saying, But then again, you're talking to a guy who can make like 80 to 100K a year sitting on his ass driving a truck and lives off 5K a year if I want to. So, I got a whole different worldly perspective than most of you. But anyhow, that's just a quick recording of this because that's why the chat's turned off, because I just wanted to record this. So peace. Take it easy.